Bill that introduced in the Senate, and it was simply to address some issues that had occurred in Metro Richmond. Many of the members might have recalled, at least from the area, that we had a severe MRSA outbreak at one of the neonatal units across the river, and then I had some particular concerns about the security plans of the hospitals in one of my area. And that's what the bill did, was require hospitals and nursing homes to have those types of plans. When the bill went over to the House, it came back with an amendment that is different from that, and I want to make sure all the members are aware that the amendment is different from the bill as it went out. And Mr. President, the amendment that came back from the House would require that facilities where 5 or more first trimester abortions a month are performed to be classified as a hospital and be regulated by the Board of Health and rules that they would promulgate. So, Mr. President, members of the Senate, I want to make you keenly aware that if you voted for the bill before, it is different as it has come back from the House.
Thank you, Senator. The Senator from Arlington, Senator Whipple.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would very much hope that we would not adopt this amendment. This is an issue that comes regularly before the Education and Health Committee, and it comes before us today in its very worst form. Because in recent years there have been attempts to say that first trimester abortions be performed in hospitals, but those bills have left out the architectural requirements and some of the more onerous requirements. But this would just say it has to be in a hospital. As you may know, there are many requirements for a hospital. One of those is architectural requirements, and someone who knows more than I will be able to speak to this in more detail. But just for example, hallways that are wide enough for 2 gurneys to pass each other in the hall. A parking lot of a certain size, elevators if they have them that are large enough to hold the gurneys, staffing requirements, and many medical requirements on hospitals that are completely unnecessary for first trimester abortions, which are one of the safest medical procedures that is performed. I would say that now it is not that they are performed just any old place. First trimester abortions are done in clinics that come under the category and are licensed as physicians' offices. Now, it's kind of a funny name for it, but I can tell you many other procedures are performed in facilities that are called physicians' offices. For example, colonoscopies, dental surgery, cosmetic surgery are examples of procedures that are performed in facilities that are called doctors' offices. What this will do is limit a woman's access to a safe first trimester abortion in a convenient place. This would mean that most of abortion clinics in Virginia would have to close. They simply could not meet the requirements of a hospital. Obviously, procedures would be vastly more expensive and much less accessible, obviously hurting poor women most of all. This is an important issue. It's not one to be decided in a few minutes on the floor of the Senate, in my view, and I would hope that we would reject this amendment.
Thanks,
I might just add before, I did want to say, not a single other state requires first trimester abortions to be performed in hospitals. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator. The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator McWaters.
Yes, Mr. President, I rise in support of this amendment. Mr. President, I represent Virginia Beach, as you know, and in our area there's a clinic, 2 of which are in the state of Virginia. The clinic is operated by a firm, I'm told, out of New Jersey. I've handed out to the members of this body some information that this clinic uses to advertise on, which I think would be affected under this bill. This particular bill, I think, proposes changes that would deal with requiring hospital regulations, not hospital licensure. And there are some distinctions from that. So again, I think it's an important public health issue. And let me tell you why, Mr. President. This particular clinic, I think, has worked to advertise to get around Virginia law. As I understand the code relative to lawful abortions in Virginia beyond the 13th week of pregnancy, they are required to be conducted in a hospital and by a physician, as I understand the code today. This particular facility is advertising the opportunity to begin the abortion, any abortion in the 14th to 24th week, and then once that has begun, to move those patients to their Maryland location to complete the abortion. Now, this is just an obfuscation of Virginia law and the public safety that we've been entrusted with. And so this particular bill would, I think, allow the health department to come in and recognize these kinds of practices and correct these kinds of practices. I think it's a significant issue for this body to consider right now, almost on an emergency basis, as the public safety issues are so critical. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, speaking to the amendment, I would urge the body to oppose this amendment. Let me first point out, and I think the senator from Arlington pointed out, that this would make Virginia the first state to outlaw first trimester abortions or require first trimester abortions to be performed in a hospital. My understanding is not a single state in the union requires that. And that raises, that would also, it would cover, as I understand, medical abortions as well as surgical abortions, which of course are performed in a doctor's hospital. So this would go way beyond what any other state has required. And it raises very serious constitutional issues. First, under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. That clause provides that similar matters should be treated similarly. You can't distinguish between one group and another group. This would mean that certain procedures, abortion procedures, that are among the very safe procedures, by the way, in the first trimester, would be treated in a way that's different than other similar procedures, such as a breast biopsy, such as colonoscopy, such as other types of dental surgery, for example, other types of procedures which are routinely performed in a doctor's hospital. So there are very doctor's office. So there's a very serious equal protection issue there. But in addition, Mr. President, this would go directly against the basic tenets of Roe versus Wade and also Planned Parenthood versus Casey, U.S. Supreme Court decisions on the right of privacy in the following respect. It would make abortions much more costly in the first trimester, and it also would make abortions less available throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia because it would raise the costs, it would reduce the availability of first trimester abortions, and therefore become unconstitutional under both Roe versus Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey. And for these reasons, Mr. President, this would be a huge mistake for the Commonwealth to adopt this amendment. And it didn't go through any committee, I'm told. It was presented for the first time as an amendment in the floor of the House. And so it's not been vetted by any committee. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The junior senator from Norfolk, Senator Northam.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask if the junior senator from Virginia Beach would yield for a question.
Will the junior senator from Virginia Beach yield for a question?
I yield, Mr. President.
Senator yields. The junior senator from Norfolk, Senator Northam.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the scenario that you described in a young lady coming to the clinic in Virginia and then being referred to the clinic or elsewhere in another state, would the evaluation include anything other than just evaluation, dating, etc.? In other words, would anything be done to that woman to initiate an abortion prior to her going to the other state?
Junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator
Mr.
McWaters.
President, I really could not answer that question. However, looking at the third bullet point on abortion services offered, it would appear from the sentence that certain procedures may have begun, but not being a physician or involved, I could not answer that, sir.
Junior senator from Norfolk, Senator Northam.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask if the junior senator would yield for an additional question.
Senator yield for an additional question. Senator yields. Junior senator from Norfolk, Senator Northam.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask is the concern for this amendment and the reason for this amendment, is it one of safety for a woman's health, or is it an issue of access?
The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator McWaters.
I think it's an issue of safety for sure. I believe that that our law is clear, and our law was well thought through, and I'm sure well debated by our legislature, and for good reason. And I think that in this case, we would allow this particular organization in 2 locations in Virginia to bypass Virginia law.
Junior senator from Norfolk, Senator Northam.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the answer from the junior senator. I would like to speak to the amendment.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President and members of the Senate, I, as a physician, am all about the safety of all of our patients, and especially our young women. And I agree with the senator from junior senator from Virginia Beach that this should be an important issue to all of us. And I would like to speak to the safety for a woman's health. As has already been said, I think it has been well founded that first trimester abortions are safe in the proper hands. Just to talk a little bit about what other physicians do in their clinics, and I'd give you a personal example. I do lumbar punctures in my clinic office. A lumbar puncture entails placing about a 3-inch needle into the lower back of a patient. The tip of the needle ends up about 2 or 3 millimeters from the spinal cord. If placed improperly, it could paralyze a patient. If I introduce a needle that's not sterile, it could introduce infection and cause meningitis. I would tell you that could be a very dangerous procedure. We could talk about an ENT clinic, ear, nose, and throat clinic, where procedures are being done in one sinus, which are right below the frontal lobes of the brain. If there are misadventures, very dangerous. We could talk about cosmetic surgery that's done on an outpatient basis. We could talk about GI clinics where colonoscopies are done. I could go on and on, Mr. President. The reason that we're allowed to do those procedures is because they're safe and because we have statistics to prove that they're safe. So my point would be that if we are going to say that first trimester abortions should be done in a hospital setting for the reasons of safety to a woman's health, we need data to tell us, evidence-based data, that those procedures are not safe. And to date, Mr. President, I have not seen that data. So I would respectfully ask that if we're going to talk that issue, please put the data on the table. In the meantime, I would ask the body of the Senate to reject this amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator. Senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Sasslaw.
Mr. President, I've consulted with Senator McDougal and the minority leader. We got an additional lengthy calendar that the conferees need desperately to meet. Everything's got to be voted up or down tomorrow. So, I mean, there's no Friday. Everything has to be voted up and down or in conference by tomorrow night. So I'm going to move it, go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 924 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 983 is passed the House with amendments.
Senator from Arlington, Senator Whipple.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was all set